For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.
Hello, welcome to For the Young at Heart. My name is Lucille Jerome, and on today's program we're going to be taking a look at senior citizens and alcoholism. My guest today is Dan O'Connor, and he's from AdCare, and he's an expert in this field who will be helping us to understand the depth and the breadth of this particular challenge, I should say. Welcome, Dan. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Lucille.
It's such a broad topic.
It is.
And I mean, just limiting it to alcoholism is still a broad topic. Mm-hmm. Tell me, how did you get interested in this, and what are the statistics anyway?
Well, first off, I'm a person in long-term recovery, Lucille. What that means to me, since November 16th of 1986, I haven't drank alcohol, used an illegal substance in my body. And I got help through an employee assistance program back in 1986. And in 2015, I retired from, it was Boston Edison, became NSTAR, then became Eversource, and I retired and I started working for AdCare. But in my job at the old Boston Edison NSTAR, I created what was called a Members Assistance Program.
Okay.
I was helped, and I figured other people need help. Mm-hmm. So I started a MAP program, Members Assistance Program, so union members could reach out, because there was a stigma in the workplace. People were afraid, if I reach out for help, I'm going to be, it's going to be punitive.
Right.
So but I knew I needed information, so I went back to school, and I took addictions counseling over UMass. And then after maybe 4 or 5 years, I met a group of people who were employee assistance people for labor assistant professionals in Massachusetts, and then the Employee Assistance Professional Association. I became certified as an employee assistant professional after many hours of work under a sponsor. And then when I met my girlfriend, she said to me, Dan, you should go back to grad school. And that was 2000. Women are always smarter than me, I know that. And in 2000, I know, in 2005, 2004, 2005, I went back to grad school, and I got a master's in counseling psychology with a concentration on the addictions.
Okay. So you know from both sides.
Yeah, and I'm passionate. Yes. I like to help people.
Yes, good for you. Good. So now if we get into just focusing on elders, because we don't seem to hear about this population. We hear about it with younger people or young adults, but this is a population. And what are the statistics?
Well, I can tell you right now. First off, when you called me up and said, Dan, would you like to come on the show and talk about older people and addiction? And I said, Lucille, the older people segment of the population, it's the fastest growing addictions are. I'll give you a stat. There are 2.5 million older adults with an alcohol or drug problem. Think about that, 2.5 million. Yeah. 6 to 11% of elderly hospital admissions are a result of alcohol or drug problems. 14% of elderly emergency room admissions because of alcohol or drugs, and 20% of elderly psychiatric hospital admissions. Widowers. Now, I know a few people that, God bless them, they've lost their loved ones. And here's a stat that really was mind-boggling. Over the age of 75, widowers have the highest rate of alcoholism in the U.S. Nearly
the highest rate.
Yes, the highest rate.
Over age 75, widowers.
Widowers in the United States. And then the other stat, nearly 50% of nursing home residents have alcohol-related problems. Okay. And then older adults are hospitalized as often for alcohol-related problems as for heart attacks. And a lot of times, people, medications.
Right.
And, tranquilizers are given to people, benzodiazepines, and then there's the abuse that happens there. So it's
Okay.
just not fun,
So why aren't we hearing so much about this population? It's hidden. It
It's
seems to be hidden.
It's underdiagnosed.
Okay.
And the problem is, so let's say I'm an older person and I have, say, diabetes or I have high blood pressure. And my family, of course, I'm secretive. I'm going to keep everything to myself. And what happens, you go see a doctor and the person is like, it's like pulling teeth. They're not going to tell you a lot of times. So the doctor's only good as the information he gets. And the doctors, of course, a lot of them still have to get more education at this
Okay.
aspect. And people would say,
Okay.
well, why is that? Because that's just what's been happening.
Well, we're only in the last few years required to ask if someone has been smoking or drinking when
Right.
we're doing evaluations anyway, and that's only in the last few years.
Right,
So before that, people weren't even being asked.
Right, that's true.
Okay.
That's true, that's true.
So you said something about medication, so I'm thinking interaction effects between alcohol and,
Well, okay, there are over-the-counter medications and like cough medicines and the like, and years ago in cough medicines, there was codeine, and then they, naturally, because that was addicted, they took that out of a lot of them. But there's still interactions that happen to people there. But like with prescription medications, people are on a prescription, say for sleep disorder,
okay,
and they drink on it. It's only going to multiply it because alcohol is a depressant, but also a lot of people will
Okay.
drink to go to sleep too. Some of
Okay.
them.
So one of the reasons we don't know so much about it is because, not so much because it's hidden perhaps, but because it's misdiagnosed,
Yes,
which will be easy to do because elders are on a lot of medications anyway. And you
Right.
have reactions to those medications anyway, so this is just an addition in a
Yes.
way, right?
Yes.
Am I on the right track?
yes, you are.
Okay, okay. Why might people, though, be turning to alcohol? The widower, we know that widowers have a harder time with loss than women do.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, the suicide rate, I think, is also higher in that population. But what is that all about? Why is that?
Well, the word called trigger.
Okay.
So I'm a person who, I'm going along in life, and I retire, and I've seen this story happen, unfortunately, countless times. And whether I'm male or female, I lose my loved one. Trigger happens of loneliness. Even though I may have kids, I still feel that loneliness because my kids are having their lives going on, and I'm by
Right.
myself. Or I have a pet. Ironically, like people become very attached to their pet. Their pet dies, they're an older
That's
person,
true.
and
That's true.
that could be a trigger. And there's, not like feeling that feeling like I can't think of his name there, but Erickson, the psychologist, stages of life, and people reach that stage of they maybe have some regrets. There's a whole litany of reasons why that could be triggers for people to pick up.
Okay. And then not talking about it or getting help for that. Well, hopefully before we end today, we'll talk about ways to get help.
Sure, sure.
Okay? So there's multiple losses. The spouse, a pet, they could be bored to tears,
Yes,
not know how to reach out. Maybe for the men, maybe the wife was the social person and took
Right.
care of all of that. So now the man is isolated. But women have a drinking problem too. It's not definitive just for men.
but if you look at, okay, if with blood alcohol content, and if you look at like the number of drinks that a male or female drinks, if they drank the same amount, it's going to show up more in a female, the blood alcohol content.
Okay.
Females will drink. A guy will drink more. If a female drank that much, she would show more of the effects of alcohol.
Okay, so there's a difference between what a woman can absorb
Yes, what she can hold as
and what
opposed
she
to
can
a guy.
hold. Okay.
Of course, if you say that to some people, the ego's there, but it's in the literature.
Okay, okay. It- So it could have been a long-standing problem, or it could be a new problem,
Right.
right? So if it's long-standing, they used to maybe drinking a certain amount. But now that they're older, they really have to change that amount,
Right,
right?
yes.
So they might not realize that.
Absolutely, and again, it takes a lot of different people to do the intervention on the person, meaning like a person is at that stage of life, and whether it be male or female, and I mean, who's going to know that if there's no one around, they're by themselves, but if there are people in their lives that are around, then they're going to be noticing, well, maybe, I'm the person that's, retired and I'm drinking a couple of drinks before dinner and a couple of drinks after dinner, and then they're noticing that I'm basically passing out, and then they notice I got slurred speech. These are some of the,
So those would be some of the signs.
Yes.
So it's like they might define it as social drinking. They might not
Yes.
define it as a problem even. So that's social drinking.
Yes.
But the 3 drinks before or after dinner or an event when they were younger, they can tolerate more as they age. And I guess that's the piece that I'm trying to get across.
Yes.
The same person, the same body, but it's really not the same body anymore.
Well, you react when you get older, and unfortunately, I'll give you an example. Now, my mother-in-law, and she's now not driving at night because she's up there. She's 82 years old. Now, a lot of people, they think, well, why? Again, here's something I believe in myself. I believe that there's a lot of prejudice to older people, in the respect of, people should respect them more than they do. But the big thing is, like, the way you talk to people, as opposed to like saying, hey, Mom, if it's your mother, Mom, you may not be, you don't want to drive at night. Now, with someone that's drinking, because the reaction time as you get older is not as quick, because you're slowing down and the like, your metabolism and everything. But like, if you're drinking, your reaction time is not going to be there. You're not going to be able to like be quicker. You're more susceptibility to falls. If you're drinking,
Falls,
yes.
yes.
I mean, think about, there's no way of knowing the stat, but there's a lot of like people who, like break their hip, and they break their hip because they fall. But if they're drinking, there's more susceptibility of falling as opposed to because, they may lose their step.
That's a very interesting point that you're bringing up, falling. We women are being told all the time, don't fall. Do exercising for your bones or you strengthen it.
Osteoporosis.
Right, and you need your balance, etc. But there could be some drinking back there too,
Right.
somewhere in the background.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's something with, because when I was looking at the literature before I met you, and again, I've like, when I was a counselor for a while in the
Yeah.
evenings, and I had a few, people who were older people, and they would be coming to see me because of drinking, and I would say to them that, they'd say, well, Dan, I have a couple drinks, and I'd say, yeah, but are you like able to be there for people in your life? You know what I mean? And some
Yeah.
of the things like that.
Yeah. Maybe they don't feel like they count anymore, some of them. They just don't count anymore. Maybe their whole life was wrapped up in work
Right.
or the family, and the family's disappearing. I think when we were talking earlier, you could be one of 8 or 9 children, but then you're the only sibling left. And then your wife dies. Or then some of your children might be dying too, and there you are. And so what's your life? You have to redefine yourself, but you have to know that that's something you can do, redefine yourself.
Absolutely. Well, what you had said earlier there. Now there's an example. There's no one left. I'm by myself. I don't have any siblings left. If I was married, my wife is gone. My kids are gone. I'm by myself, and I'm drinking. Who's going to know?
Who's going to know?
But then neighbors are starting to notice that maybe like barrel day, you take out your trash. My barrels, I'm leaving, so let's say it's Wednesday, they take the trash. And these are just little telltale signs. It's Sunday. That's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 4 days. The barrels are still out. Maybe I cut my lawn because I don't want to ask anyone for help. I leave the lawnmower and it's raining and so the lawnmower is still out there. There's things that people start noticing.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about, Mr. O'Connor? What are we going to do about Mr. O'Connor?
Yeah.
And as I said to you before, some of the things that people would do would be, all right, if the person they know is, say, religious-based, there's pastoral counseling.
Yes.
Maybe reach out to the parish priest, because you can do it, as I always say again, it's in how you say it. Like you could say to someone, like I could say to someone, why are you leaving your barrels out? I could process that like you're yelling at me.
Right.
As opposed to like, hey, Mr. O, is there something going on? Maybe you need to talk to someone. It's all in how we say things.
Right.
And so that's some of the things there. And again, I mean, I get hit with that all the time, talking to people about problems with alcohol and, other substances, and it's all in how you talk to them.
So that would be good for us to talk about ways to approach a person that we might be concerned about, ways to do that that's non-threatening, so the person doesn't get his back up, who you talking to, that kind of thing, right?
Yes, like example would be, like I said, like a parish priest.
Yes.
So let's use another example. So let's say person's having a problem, I'm a concerned neighbor, and I notice that he's leaving lights on for like days. And I'm like, this guy's on a fixed income.
Right.
So no one knows. He's shut in. I see him coming out maybe once in a while. He's not even coming out really, and I'm wondering what's going on. So I turn around and in my, let's say out here, let's say there's a city councilor. One of the examples would be calling up the city council. Hey, do you know of any services? I
Right.
have a neighbor who I think he's having a real, something's going on. Let's say I don't see him for a number of days. You can also do a wellness check.
Okay, yes.
Like the mail, like you look in the mail, like I noticed a few years ago, the lady that lived by me, her bell was ripped out of the socket of the house, and the mail was piling up, and myself and my wife decided to do a wellness check. And you
Yeah.
can do that. So that's another thing that people can do.
Yeah.
Just you're concerned. And then, you notice if the person's disabled and everything, and then you maybe see if there's any family members, and if there aren't, then you maybe reach out to the area, maybe has a community health center, and there's counselors
senior
there.
center.
Senior center.
Right.
Professionals.
You could, when you're calling it a wellness check, and neighbors, I think they might think of it as a friendly, just going to check in on, hi, friend, hi, I baked these muffins, I thought you might like some muffins.
That's the easiest, softer way, which
Okay.
is a good way with
Okay.
people, because literally some people could take things the wrong
Yes,
way.
yes.
And as I preface it, earlier, that I just think that with people, that you want to be nice to people, because people, as they get older, they can process things that someone's being not nice to me, so you have to
right.
really be nice to people.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to bake some muffins tonight.
I want one.
Okay. So again, I want to go back to something.
Sure,
The
absolutely.
focus on younger people. So you think it's sort of a discrimination against the older population? So we hear about sexism, we hear about racism. We don't really hear about ageism, do we? Now
No,
that
we
we're
don't.
talking.
We don't. I mean, again, it's like, I just think that, I feel, the opiate epidemic is horrible. 4 to 5 people a day, overdosing. But with this segment of the population, there are a lot of older people that are shut in. People
Right.
aren't paying attention to them.
Right.
People are ignoring them, and they have a problem with alcohol.
Unfortunately, sometimes what I've seen over the years is something will happen. They'll fall or something will happen and they'll go into the hospital and then there'll be an assessment and it's unsafe to go home. And that's when it's sort of like a crunch time, and then there's probably going to be maybe a nursing home admission or going home again or assisted living, but with lots of services put in, if the person will accept it,
That's the key,
Okay,
acceptance.
acceptance of it. So it's like, okay, but there's that crunch, and that's maybe when the problem or the challenge will be discovered.
Yes,
Okay, and then you work from there. That's
Right.
how you do it, you work from there.
absolutely,
okay.
yes.
Now, safe drinking, what might be some ways to, like, how do you gauge how much to drink? Because not everybody who drinks is going to have a problem.
Right. And again, in the literature, it's like one drink. The way with people people that drink, like let's say we were out at an event.
Okay.
And the way I say to people with getting like how you metabolize alcohol, one drink, if I had one drink, it's going to take 1 hour for alcohol to get out of my system.
Okay.
So again, with that, so I have one drink, say, before dinner, and then I'm eating dinner, and then usually it's,
So it's good to have food in your, while you're
yes,
doing that
food,
too?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
Okay,
Because again, if you're just drinking and there's an empty stomach, you're gonna, you're older and the like, and, it's just gonna, you're gonna feel the effects of it more so.
but what is one drink? This cup, this mug holds 16 ounces. If I were to drink that in liquor, I'd probably fall over.
Well, in the literature that I had, there, for alcohol, I
Yeah.
know there's,
I mean, do they actually find, like, measurements of some type?
there's a,
Ballpark figure?
Yes, I have it right here. Give me 1 second, because I noticed it yesterday when I was looking at this brochure, and you're going to be mentioning that brochure, I know, which is very good. Yeah, 1 second.
make a good team.
Of course, it's at the end, Lucille, is everything. Hold on.
It's in there.
It is. I had it earlier. But anyway,
Yeah.
one drink is I think it's point 0.05 alcohol.
Okay.
Is in it.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. And again, okay, so one 12-ounce can of bottle of regular beer, ale, or wine cooler. One drink is equal to the following: one 8 or 9-ounce can or bottle of malt liquor.
Okay.
And again, one drink equals to one 5-ounce glass of red or white wine, and one drink would equal 1.5-ounce shot glass of distilled spirits. That's like if someone has a shot of whiskey or
Okay.
vodka.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's that.
So that's how they determine the amount per se.
Yes.
For a lot of people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and again, like how you metabolize.
Yeah.
And again, with that rule of thumb, because I used to speak out at union forums, and someone said, well, how about with a blood alcohol content, and I have to go to work tomorrow, and there's random alcohol and drug testing, and I used the rule of thumb, well, if I had 5 drinks, then I better take 5 hours without drinks, so
Okay.
it metabolizes out of my
Okay.
body.
Okay.
So that's just a general rule I use for people.
Okay. So when we look at some of these issues, so this would be a no-no.
Right, absolutely, that would be a good drink.
Okay, okay, but I was wondering because I had read, one drink or so many drinks per day or so many drinks per week, and I'm thinking, yeah, but how do you measure that for most people,
Yeah, no, I understand you, and that's why it's good that they have a little chart that they
Yes.
have. And this is a great, I know you're going to publicize it at the
Yeah,
end. It's a
yeah.
great little
I think it's a
brochure.
great brochure, National Institute of Aging.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I only came across this about 2 weeks ago, by the way,
I
when I
came
was doing my
across the other
research.
night.
There's a lot of information out there that's really not publicized.
That's the key.
That's the thing. So something like this is educational,
Yes,
and it's non-threatening,
yes,
and hopefully it will pique someone's interest to say, well, maybe I ought to check on that for myself,
right,
okay? Or my mom or my dad,
yes.
something like
yes.
that.
Well, the National Council on Alcohol and Addiction, and they have a lot of good information on the internet. I went on it when I called up,
Right.
the keywords on Google.
Right. You are passionate about your work. It's
Yeah,
very
I am.
clear.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I work for the greatest place, AdCare. And I
Yeah.
mean, and AdCare is a place that's a level 4 hospital. Level 4 means if I have high blood pressure or if I have diabetes, and it's a Medicare facility.
Right.
And we pick
Okay.
people up,
Okay.
so that's why I love where I work. It helps people.
Now, when I learned about it, I used to work in Worcester at UMass Medical Center.
Oh, okay.
And we were on Belmont Street, and they were down the hill on Lincoln Street. And we used to do a lot of work together back then. But it was only in Worcester back then, so I mean,
Right.
I'm going back a number of years. You're all over now.
Well,
And
now,
it's a nonprofit, isn't it?
No, AdCare is a family-owned business.
Oh, okay.
But but at AdCare up in Worcester, it's a 114-bed facility,
Mm-hmm.
and it's owned by the Hillis family, and phenomenal family. They just received a national award a few years ago for the
Mm-hmm. Okay.
best-run family business. We take insurances, but mass health insurances. The only 2 we don't take are MBHP and Network Health.
Okay.
And Network Health, when I say we don't take it, it's tough to get people in on that insurance. So
Yeah.
instead of wasting time, I mean, I've tried with people, but it's difficult.
Right,
And then
right.
every other there's about 60 approximately brands of mass health. And we take commercial insurances. So let's say I went to detox today,
Yeah.
and I get a caseworker, and Chapter 258, the governor's law, 14 days. They try to keep them there. And then from there, step down into the outpatient,
Okay.
outpatient in Worcester, outpatient in Boston on Beacon Street. I was just down there earlier,
Okay.
14 Beacon by the State House, outpatient in Quincy, outpatient in
Whoa.
Springfield,
Yeah.
and Dartmouth. And then we have a facility, an inpatient facility in Rhode Island, 23-bed detox, 23-bed residential,
Wow.
and then we have 2 outpatient
Yeah.
clinics, North Kingston and Warwick, Rhode Island. North Kingston is where the inpatient is also for.
So that's
entry.
that's all in about 35 years they've expanded.
40,
40
it's
something?
over 40 years.
Yeah.
I think it's like 42
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
I've been there
okay.
now almost 15 months. Best job I've ever had.
Yeah.
Helping people.
Yeah, well, it is, it really is important. We're okay, so we've talked a little bit about what family and friends might be
Sure.
able to do in a nice way to get attention. What are some of the illnesses that someone might have if they have been drinking for many, many years and now they're seniors? They might end up with a serious illness in addition to everything
You get
else.
cirrhosis.
Yeah,
I mean, which is,
Yeah.
and that doesn't get reversed. I mean,
that
you
won't be
just-
reversed.
No,
No.
cirrhosis of the
Okay,
liver.
okay.
But then, people can get, I think the gout happens there to some people.
Okay.
I mean, everybody shows up
Yeah,
things different
yeah.
because of their, genealogy
Right,
and all that
yeah.
stuff,
So, based on what we're saying, okay, so what might be a harmless drink for somebody might not be for someone else, because we're all such individuals.
Yes.
And so we're going to metabolize different, we're going to excrete differently, we're going to absorb differently. So you need to know your own body.
And the other thing, too, that we should mention is different people getting help in different ways.
Yes.
So let's just say I'm the person, I love using myself in the example.
Okay.
So, okay, Dan has a problem. First off, all right, we're gonna get Dan to see his primary care physician. And most times primary care physicians, I know Mayan has education at addictions and the like. So she notices weight drop and, my blood pressure and things. And she knows I do have a smell of alcohol in my breath.
Okay.
And then the family member mentions it to
Yeah.
her. Hey, Dan, you ever want to look at your drinking? And then she has the publications,
Yeah.
like a publication
Yeah.
that you have here.
Yeah.
Maybe give the 20-question test that 12-step model Alcoholics Anonymous gives.
Okay.
And then, so it's always the least invasive, Lucille.
The least invasive, yes. And as we begin to wind down, I'm glad you're mentioning that. Whatever's the least, it's like with medication, you start low and you go slow. So with this here, it's the least intrusive interaction that's going to be aimed to be helpful to
Yes.
somebody, and which
Yes.
is what we want, because there is always help. It's never too late to stop.
Because most people always will think if they have a loved one and they love them dearly, and I always in my head
Yeah.
say, I'd be the same way, you'd sort of you're going right to detox.
Oh, God, no. No, you
But-
can't do that.
But it's usually,
Yeah.
talking to them.
Right.
And then from there, it's going to be outpatient clinician, when I know where I work at care, they're all licensed. And then from there, it's going to be if the person's still drinking and they're really getting better off, then you may want to, it's looking at
Okay.
getting them in, they reach criteria to detox. And then from there, if they still need more, they keep them in under the insurance as long as they can, so they can
Sure.
get an education on what alcohol is doing to their body.
I want to thank you so much for coming today. This has been very helpful, I believe, to our audience. And to me, I'm learning a lot about the amount of a drink, et cetera. And I'm not making light of that, by the way.
I
It's just
understand,
a fact.
Lucille.
It's just a
Right.
fact. So thank you again for coming, and thank you for watching today.
Thank you, Lucille.
For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.